Part 70. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 691. Chapter 691. They are all bad people. How to describe it? This tea seems to have been brewed to have the purest taste. Xianxia was extremely surprised. His daughter could make tea when she was a child, but she could never make it this well. After her daughter has learned so many skills in the past 6 years, does she still have time to practice tea art? Since Luoluo accepted the sole controlling power of the Long family, she must have been to the Long family. Xianxia's eyes were a little cold. He really didn't have a good impression of the Long family. The main culprit that caused their family to be separated was the Long family, and the pain and suffering that the wife experienced was also because of the Long family. The selfish Long family is the source of their family's pain. Otherwise, how could he and his wife leave their 10-year-old daughter and come to the higher continent? "I've been there, I went with Zhekong," Xianxia responded. Xianxia knew what his daughter meant. She was telling him that it was because of Zhekong's help and contribution that he could leave the Long family intact. The daughter is trying to gain favor for Zhekong in front of her. Xianxia raised the corners of his lips mockingly. Is it because they can't suppress others with force, so they become softer? Xianxia raised her eyebrows and said, "Absolutely." Xianxia said with dark eyes, "What did they say about me and your mother?" "I didn't talk about you much, I just said I was sorry for you." The eldest elder of the Long family also said that I would go to the higher continent and see my mother to say sorry for them. Xianxia thought of the eldest elder's guilty look at that time. Could it be that it was also fake? Xianxia sneered, "That's their usual trick. There are people pretending to be black-faced, white-faced, and red-faced. How can Luoluo respond to him?" Xianxia said, I will bring you the words, but if my mother doesn't forgive them, I can't make the decision." Xianxia burst out laughing. As expected of my Xianxia's daughter, she should treat them like this. He must have thought that Luoluo would say it's all in the past. "Don't take it to heart. I didn't expect Luoluo to fall in love with him." Xianxia could see that her father was in a very good mood. Zhekong told her all the information he found when he went to the place where the 9 families lived. The longest period of punishment among the 9 families was 1,000 years, and the Long family was the shortest among them, about 600 years. Because the 9 families are in the lower continent, although they are the place with the strongest spiritual energy in the lower continent, their bloodline talents are still slowly weakening, and each generation is getting worse. Therefore, they refuse to marry outsiders. I want to control the speed of the weakening of bloodline talents in this way, hoping to return to the higher continent before the bloodline is completely assimilated. But the Long family is different. The Long family has long started to let the most talented children in the family go out to marry outsiders, including her mother, who was also let out by the Long family at the beginning to find men with good talents to marry, just to give birth to children with good talents. The return of the children will make the Long family's bloodline talent stronger. It's just that her mother was unwilling to return to the Long family after meeting her father, and she was even less willing to let Xianxia return to the Long family. After 10 years of tit-for-tat confrontation with the Long family, she was still captured by the Long family. When Xianxia was 10 years old, her mother suddenly disappeared. Her father left to find her mother. The Long family actually came back to look for her, but just to see her. She gave up because her talent was too low. According to the information Zhekong found, her mother was imprisoned in the Long family for 3 years, and her father fought with the Long family for 3 years. Later, her father used some method to rescue her mother, and they broke through and left together to the Tianqian continent. It seems that this information may not necessarily be true now. After Xianxia told her father what she knew, Xianxia snorted coldly, "They are really good at making up stories. Do they even believe it to be true?" "Isn't that the case?" Xianxia said. My heart sank. If these are all false, then what else is true about the Long family? Your mother was already more than 2 months pregnant when she was captured by the Long family. It was only discovered after arriving at the Long family that your brother was born 5 months after we arrived here, Xianxia told her. Xianglou said. My mother was already pregnant with her brother for 2 months when she left home, and she was born 5 months after my parents came to the higher continent. In this way, my parents have only stayed in the Long family for less than 3 months. How do they say that? It's only been 3 years. If you don't know how to count, you won't make such a mistake, right? If my parents only stayed in the Long family for less than 3 months, what did the Long family do to them to put my mother in such a state, with her soul and body so injured, and her body so seriously injured? Still poisoned? Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhozhong looked at each other, and the information that Ji Zhozhong could find was inaccurate. I'm afraid this was not just done by the Long family. Ji Zhozhong gave her a comforting look, meaning to listen to what her father said. Yu Chenjai sighed and said, "Let me first tell you what my mother and I found out about the reason why the Long family was demoted in Tianqian continent after we came here." Yan Xiangluo picked up the teapot and poured another cup of tea for her father. She also refilled the tea for Ji Zhozhong, her younger brother Anan, and herself. Then she continued to make tea and listened to her father's explanation about the demotion of the Long family. Do you think the Long family's soul-controlling power is inherited from the family? Yuan Chenjai asked, looking at his daughter and Ji Zhozhong. It seems not, Ji Zhozhong said. He and Yan Xiangluo looked at each other. His father-in-law said so it must be wrong. Not only is it not true, if you knew how the Long family obtained their soul-controlling power, you would be extremely disgusted. Yu Chenjai thought that his daughter was so good at using the power of soul control. It seemed that her talent for soul control was even stronger than that of her mother. He wondered if she would give up on becoming a heavenly master if she knew the truth. Seeing her father looking at her worriedly, Yan Xiangluo said, "Dad, don't worry about me. What I learned is not the soul control technique of the Long family, but the soul control technique in the box that no one in the Long family can open. To be precise, it has nothing to do with the Long family's soul control technique. If it does, it is just brought by the Long family." Hearing this, Yan Chenjai breathed a sigh of relief and said, "So that's it? The Long family is trying to fetch water from a bamboo basket but in vain." "No, Dad didn't see their expressions at that time. It must have been very relaxing," Yan Xiangluo told her father with a deliberately exaggerated expression. Yu Chenjai smiled and said, "It's very relieved to hear what my family said." Wan Enluo pouted and said, "The Long family are all bad people. They bullied his mother and then bullied his sister. Fortunately, the sister was smart enough and was not plotted by them." Yan Xiangluo rubbed An's head and said with a smile, "My mother is also from the Long family. My sister and Anan also have part of the Long family's blood." After hearing what her sister said, Wan Enluo thought about what this was like. She lowered her head and felt worried. She sighed heavily as if she couldn't think of any good solutions. "Oh, what should I do? I feel a little disgusted with myself." End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 692. Chapter 692 Reasons for being demoted. Not everyone in a family is a bad person, and not everyone is a good person. We just need to be ourselves. There is no need to dislike ourselves because of others. Yan Xiangluo looked at her brother's bulging cheeks, stretched out her hand and pinched it. It felt great and comfortable, so she pinched it again. Wan Enluo not only did not resist, but also raised her face and found the most comfortable position for her sister to pinch her face. Isn't it speechless? Isn't this boy's most impatient and pinching his face? He won't let him touch when he is 2 or 3 years old. Now this obediently makes his sister pinch. How can he feel that his son is raising? Zhizhong looked at Yan Xiangluo's hand calmly and then at his brother-in-law's face, comparing it with his own face. Luoluo had never pinched his face before. Could it be that his face was not as tender as his brother-in-law's? Wan Enluo, who enjoyed the happiness of being pinched by her sister, did not forget to respond to her sister's words, "I listen to my sister." Zhu Chenjai twitched the corner of his mouth. His father was not as strong in feelings as his sister. Rolling his eyes at his son, Chenjai continued, "After we came to the higher continent, we traveled all over the continent in order to find medicinal materials for your mother's health. Coincidentally, the main family of the Long family is on this continent." Yan Xiangluo's apricot eyes flashed. It was quite a coincidence that the main family of the Long family was here, and the Ji family was also here. There is also the demigod Wei Lan who claims to have blood with him. How come it seems that everything about them happens to be in the 9UN continent? After all, even if a person is demoted to a lower continent, he actually doesn't know which continent he is demoted to, let alone his exact location. Although he was confused in his heart, he did not interrupt his father's words. "We met the head of the Long family in the western continent at that time. We didn't know if it was related to the Long family in the Tianqian continent, so we curiously checked it out. Only after this investigation did we know that it was indeed related." Yu Chenjai's tone was very angry. It was obvious that the Long family in Tianqian continent had done something that he was very disdainful of. The Long family of the Tianqian continent is a branch of the Long family of the western continent. They have never had any descendants with outstanding talents, and they have always wanted to rise up in the family. It is so easy there. The descendants of the direct line of the Long family are all very talented, and are good at medicine. Although the family is not well known on the mainland, it is still quite famous in the western continent. However, the branch of the Long family in the Tianqian continent knew that it was not as good as the direct lineage in medicine, so they had a wrong idea and wanted to do it. Finding a way out of other industries really gives them a chance. Yan Xiangluo knew that this was the reason why this branch of the Long family was demoted. The person in charge of this branch of the Tianma continent met a seriously injured man on his way back from an outing. He was unconscious. Although he was unconscious, he was holding a box tightly in his hand. From the aura on his body he could sense that he was a celestial master, mainly because the celestial master's aura was so strong that even if he was not a celestial master, he could sense it immediately. So the person in charge took the man to a residence and got down. He asked his daughter-in-law to have with the man, and took the box from the man's hand. Fortunately, he was treated for his injuries afterwards and did not let the man die. But after that, he took the man away. Put it in the place where he was unconscious before. Yu Xiangluo was speechless. What kind of operation is this? The principal's bet was right. Just once, the legitimate daughter became pregnant and later gave birth to a son. This child did have the talent of a heavenly master. They also devoted all their efforts to cultivating him, hoping to use this to change the talent of their family's bloodline. He did it. This child's attainments as a heavenly master were indeed high, and the children he gave birth to later had soul-controlling talents. Their branch of the Long family finally had a status in the Long family. It's good to be satisfied, but they are not satisfied and want to open the box. Because this kid sensed that inside the box was a high-level soul-controlling technique. He tried to open the box, but couldn't. Then he thought of using some clandestine methods. Such methods are not allowed by the will of heaven. It was allowed. And when things started, I couldn't hold back. I kept using this method to open the box with a sense of luck, and harmed many people. Finally, someone found out and complained, so this branch was dismissed. God's punishment. Many people died when heaven's punishment came down, and this son also died. But the amazing thing is that the people who survived were all children connected by blood with this son. Heaven's punishment alarmed Yun Shangtian and found out what they had done. After the secret incident, the remaining people of this lineage were punished to the lower continent. They took nothing with them, but secretly took away the box that their father had not opened despite all his efforts. Apparently it was still don't give up, and that's how the long family of Tianqian continent came to be. Yan Xiongluo's expression became solemn. The demigod Wei Lan said he was related by blood. Could it be that that man was a direct descendant of the Wei family? Just because these things were done when he was unconscious, he didn't even know that he was being tricked into taking away the tadpole? There is a large group of his bloodline somewhere that he doesn't know about. But the Wei family is an alchemy family, and I haven't heard of anyone with the talent of a heavenly master. Dad, does the Long family know about these things? Yan Xiongluo asked. She knew after coming to the high continent that the family that was punished to be sent to the low continent was not something that the forces in the mainland could do. Only Yun Shangtian had this strength. Of course, it meant after losing the rule of the human emperor in the spiritual world. But if the clouds and heavens knew it, then how could the Wei family not know that the box was in the hands of the Long family? Zhu Chenjai shook his head. No one knows about the Long family vaccination and the box, not even the people in Yunshangtian, nor the Long family. They are also curious about why this branch suddenly has the talent of a heavenly master. None of them I know that mainlanders don't know this. Dad knows this because I met one of the sons of the Long family by chance. He was framed by his brother and chose not to return to the Long family, so he escaped. The heaven above clouds punishes this lineage to go to the lower continent. He was originally extremely talented as a celestial master, but after being framed by his jealous brother, his dantian was damaged. He was already a low level and had a lifespan of 1,500 years, so he only lived to be more than 700 years old. When I met him, it was when he was dying and he told me these things. Firstly, he didn't want to let himself leave this world silently, and secondly, he didn't want the truth to be lost like this world. And the third point is that he is a heavenly master himself, and he predicted that he would eventually meet someone with whom he was destined. Sure enough, when he met me, he told me the truth, and he didn't ask for anything from me. Just tell me to do whatever I want. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 693. Chapter 693. Just pretend it doesn't happen. Does my mother know this? Yan Xiongluo asked again. I don't know. I didn't tell her. Your brother only found out today, Yu Chenjai sighed. How dare he tell her this because his wife is not in good health? Now that my wife is in good health, they should know these things. Even if they don't go to the Long family to meet any relatives, they still have to be mentally prepared, just in case. As for the main family of the Long family, he felt that more than 600 years had passed. Although their lifespans were very long and they were still there, and they were still young people, the Long family in Tianqian continent had already passed through 7 or 8 generations. People's inheritance has been passed on, and there is no way to talk about seniority, and their bloodlines are much farther apart. Moreover, the Long family here may not want to have anything to do with them. They only think they are embarrassed and there is really no need to have anything to do with them. Yan Xiongluo knew why her father chose to talk about the Long family being demoted first. Knowing these things, the actions of the Long family in Tianqian continent can be understood. It is really not easy to get this good seedling from my mother. According to the genetics of another life, my mother inherited the good genes of that heavenly master, so she did not grow crooked. Because of this, the talent for soul control is very strong. Yan Xiongluo thought for a while and said, Dad, during the Continental Hegemony Tournament, I met the Supreme God Wei Lan from Yun's Hang Palace. He has very good medical skills and said that I have the same bloodline as him, so the bloodline I can sense is still theirs. He is a direct descendant of the Wei family, but he doesn't know that the Wei family has a stranded bloodline. Moreover, the Wei family is an alchemy family, and he has never heard that anyone in the Wei family has the talent of a heavenly master. The implication is that Dad, please analyze, is the heavenly master who was plotted against someone a member of the Wei family. Xianxia was a little surprised when he heard this. Even if you have the direct bloodline of the Wei family, it doesn't necessarily come from your mother's side. What did the demigod Wei Lan say about this? Yu Xiongluo said, I asked the demigod Wei Lan to hide it, and the Wei family won't tell me. I will tell you when I want to go to the Wei family to verify my bloodline. Yu Xianxia agreed, yes, it is right to be more cautious. If there is a chance for Dad and Wei Lan to meet the demigods, they will know whose bloodline comes from. I think so too. I just want to wait until I see my parents before I decide what to do about this matter. Yu Xiongluo nodded. She also wants demigod Wei Lan to meet her parents and see who can feel the blood aura in them, so that they can know whether their bloodline comes from their father's or mother's family. It is also a good idea to find out what their bloodline is, and then decide whether to go to the Wei family to test their bloodline. Such a complicated blood relationship was something that Yan Xiongluo had never heard of before. In fact, even if she really has the blood of the Wei family, Yan Xiongluo doesn't really want to have anything to do with the Wei family. Zhu Qianzhai looked at his daughter and son and said, the bloodline in our family is too complicated. You, sister and brother, should be open-minded and don't care about it. Bloodline is just a channel for you to come into this world. You can't do anything about it yourself. The choice, how to live this life, is yours to decide, and it is real. He is worried that bloodline will make his daughter and son feel inferior. After all, how can people in this world not care about bloodline and reputation? But let alone their siblings, even he and his wife couldn't choose. His own life experience was also very rough. Wouldn't he be able to survive? If I were not broad-minded and strong enough, I would not be where I am now. It is even less likely to have a wife, daughter, and son. Yan Xiongluo understood her father's worries and was the first to say, don't you understand that the children you taught yourself? I will never care about those people and things. I don't care either. Ruan Anluo immediately followed her sister to express her determination. He doesn't care if his sister doesn't care. He only cares about his parents and sister, and other people have nothing to do with him. Xianxia smiled. He was worried that his daughter would reject his younger brother before, but now that they are getting along so well, he, as a father, is very pleased. He knew very well that the reason why the two siblings got along so well was related to his insistence on telling his son about his sister every day, so that he would take on the responsibility of protecting his sister in the future. The most important thing is that the son knows how good his sister is before he even meets her. He admires his sister, so that when he meets her for the first time, he can appear like a little fanboy, which makes his daughter feel very friendly. In any case, if the daughter and son get along well, they don't have to worry about anything. It seems that the couple will no longer need their son's education in the future. If nothing happens, the couple can really live the free life they have longed for. What's my mother's attitude toward grandpa and uncle? Yan Xiongluo wanted to know her mother's attitude towards grandpa and uncle. After all, she didn't give them a good look. Although I didn't give him any embarrassment, he was still the elder, my mother's parents and brother. Zhu Qianzhai sighed, just pretend it didn't happen. Your mother was harmed like that, and they were indifferent. Whether they were helpless or really cold-hearted, they chose to give up on your mother, so be it. Their talents have no chance to come to the higher continent. Yan Xiongluo immediately understood that it felt extremely cold to see her daughter being treated like that by her tribe. Maybe there is a reason for being helpless, but the more important reason is to protect their two sons. Yuan Xiongluo has seen too many parents who favor sons over daughters. No wonder they were so indifferent when they saw her. Their daughter didn't even care, let alone her granddaughter. I understand. Yan Xiongluo nodded. After we came here, We encountered a lot of things in order to avoid trouble. We didn't use our real names at that time. Xianxia continued to talk about what happened after he and his wife came here. I know, wasn't Dad the first place winner in the last continental competition? Yan Xianglego said with a smile. Xianxia smiled. I just knew you would guess that this name is us, so I used this name. At that time, I participated in the continental competition to get prizes and buy medicinal materials for your mother's illness. I didn't want to be in the limelight. I had no choice. For this reason, I later took refuge in the snowy mountains of the northern continent, mainly because although your mother's body was nourished with precious medicinal materials, it was still getting worse and worse. I thought that the snow lotus in the snowy mountains was still good for the body. Living in the snowy mountains is an injustice to your brother. He was forced to live in isolation with us at such a young age. Dad, I'm not wronged. As long as mother can get better, I can do whatever she wants, Xuanhuan said quickly. He had memories of his mother's health being bad, and it was getting worse and worse. He was always worried that he would lose her, and he never felt that he was wronged. Yan Xianglego rubbed her brother's head, and is indeed a very well-behaved child. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 694. Xuanhuan's eyes were bright. Sister, if I practice hard, I will become very powerful in the future. Then I can protect my sister. Well, sister, wait, Yan Xianglego responded with a smile. Xianxia looked at the interaction between his daughter and son, and the corners of his mouth curved. After more than 6 years, their family was finally coming to an end. As for the father-in-law and mother-in-law, they chose to turn a blind eye to the life and death of their wife back then. Now that there are high and low continents separating them, it is almost impossible to see each other again. Just treat it as if it is not happening, as the wife said. The daughter is sensible and smart. She has said so herself. She will never mention the affairs of her father-in-law and mother-in-law in front of her wife. Even the affairs of the Long family will not be mentioned unless it is necessary. Xianxia continued to tell his daughter about their experience in coming to the higher continent and the Long family's experience in crossing the Tianqian continent. Yan Xianglego didn't ask any more questions. Kaohong's face said. No matter what the reason was, she could not continue to ask at this time. When we came to the higher continent, your mother was in extremely poor health. Although she succeeded in breaking through the clan level, her health was even worse, especially when she was pregnant with a child. When we first arrived, she was almost kidnapped and became a slave. The first 2 months were very embarrassing. Later, as the child grew older, your mother's life was in danger at any time. She insisted on using her meager strength to protect the child in her belly. Xuanhuan was shocked when he heard this. His parents had never told him these words. It turned out that his mother risked her life in order for him to come into this world. He must be very good to his mother. Okay. Fortunately, during our most difficult time, we met a couple in a small mountain village in the southern continent. The husband's surname was Lu, and his wife was a doctor. The two of them had very ordinary spiritual roots. They had been practicing for decades, and they had not yet broken through the king's realm. Class. Yan Xianglego knew that ordinary descriptions of such spiritual roots would be euphemistic. But his wife's spirit level is level 5 and her medical skills are very good, but she can't make elixirs because there is no flame. Yan Xianglego sighed in her heart. Is this person's luck good or bad? Yes, she has good medical skills but no flame, so she cannot become an alchemist. Or, no, she has poor talent. God gave her the gift of medical skills. People's destiny is really hard to explain. Her husband's talent is better than hers, and he is at the 9th level of the spirit level, but he has never been able to break through the king level. The couple has a good relationship, but they have never had children. Xuanhuan was speechless. The couple's luck was really bad. Perhaps meeting her parents to help her parents was the greatest blessing in their lives. The reason why she said this was because they helped her parents. Let her brother be born safely. She will definitely find opportunities to repay them for such kindness in the future. The couple were very enthusiastic. Especially since your mother was not in good health after giving birth, they allowed us to stay in their village and enthusiastically found a house for us to live in. Later, it was also thanks to her that she nursed your mother back to health. Although your mother can't be cured, but your mother's successful delivery is thanks to her. People in the village say that she has delivered almost all the babies born in Xianxia village for more than 10 years, and she is very experienced. Your brother is lucky because she is here. Your mother's delivery was safe. Xianxia's expression softened when he talked about the couple who were the only ones who helped them when they came to the higher continent. When we have the opportunity, our family will go and see them together. Yan Xiangluo saw her father's expression and knew how grateful he was to the couple whose son's surname was Lu. Even if they saw that their father was highly talented and strong, and had the intention to be friendly and help them when they were in the most difficult time, she would still be willing to repay them. Yan Xianxia continued with a somewhat long tone, "We lived there for 4 years, until your mother's health became serious again, and only one person had the medicinal materials she needed, and he didn't sell them. He only used the reward for first place in the continental competition. Therefore, my father decided to participate in the continental competition and left Xianxia village. It has been 3 years since I last saw her. Now that your mother is in good health, we really need to go back and see them when we have time." Xianxia sighed. Tone. Xuanhuan also said, "Sister, Uncle Lu and Madame Lu have been very kind to me. I miss them all." Yan Xiangluo smiled when she saw her younger brother's serious look, and was only 4 years old at that time. "Do you remember them?" Xuanhuan said proudly, "Of course I remember. My parents said that I am like my sister and have a photographic memory. I also feel like my sister. How can I have a bad memory?" Yan Xiangluo was speechless. "Brother, whether your memory is good or not really has nothing to do with your sister. It has to do with our parents. This is true. But when I saw my brother's expression of pride that I have a sister, I still didn't offend him. Forget it, it's okay to look like myself, who made me his sister." Xianxia has a new understanding of his son as a sister fan. He feels that he does not need to tell his son how good his sister is in the future. I am afraid that it will be his son's turn to nag him about how good his sister is in the future. However, Xianxia still agreed with his son's words. What Anan said is right. The couple has no children, and they treat your brother as their own. Your mother was very weak after giving birth and could not take care of your brother at all. It is really thanks to them that your brother survived. Husband and wife. Especially your Uncle Liu's wife, she looked at your brother indifferently. It wasn't until your brother was 1 month old and your mother was in better health that she felt free to leave the child to us. She lost more than 10 pounds in this month. Jin, your brother has gained 10 pounds. Although you left your brother to us, I still come here every day to help your mother take care of your brother. We have been staying in Xianxia village for 4 years, and your Uncle Lu always carries your brother with him wherever he goes. He held him in his arms before, and later lead. It was the most comfortable life we had since we came to the higher continent. Every time I went out to find medicinal materials for your mother and your brother were taking care of me, which was much better than relatives." Xianxia sighed. Although brother Lu was more than 10 years older than him, he was indeed much better than his brothers who had the same bloodline. Xuanhuan also said, "The osmanthus cake made by Aunt Lu is very delicious, and the peach blossom rice wine is also delicious." Yan Xiangluo looked at her younger brother in surprise. "Anan, have you been drinking since you were 4 years old?" Xuanhuan said sheepishly, "I tasted it secretly." Xianxia smiled and nodded his son's forehead. "No, I tasted a small jar and slept for 3 days without waking up." When her father said this embarrassing thing at this time, Wan Anluo's face turned red. She was afraid that her sister would dislike him, so she immediately said, "Sister, it was just that one time, I have never drank again." The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 695. Chapter 695 To deal with him. Well, sister believes in you. Yan Xianluo also smiled. Wan Anluo is relieved that his sister doesn't dislike him. That's great. How come he has such a good sister? So powerful, beautiful, and yet so gentle. Yan Xianluo thought to herself, the two of them are really siblings, and their ability to drink is not that great. She doesn't have a good drinking tolerance either. She doesn't even dare to drink too much fruit wine, she only dares to taste it lightly. She knew that her brother was a big drinker. He drank a jar of peach blossom wine at the age of 4 and only slept for 3 days. His drinking capacity was beyond the reach of ordinary people. You must know that the peach blossom wine brewed by Aunt Lu has been drunk for more than 10 years. The alcohol content is not low, and the jar is not a small jar weighing 1 pound or 2. That is to say, if you smell the incense, you will get drunk. Sister has also made peach blossom wine for 3 years. It should be good to drink now. Only then did Yan Xianluo think of the peach blossom wine she had made. Hearing this, Ji Zhong looked at her and interrupted, "Were all the peach blossoms outside the cave taken away by Luoluo to make wine?" Yan Xianluo nodded and said, "Yes, it's wild. If I don't make wine, it will fall to the ground and turn into mud. If peach petals could choose between mud and wine, they should choose to become wine." Ji Zhong laughed and tried to find an excuse for himself. Fortunately, the peach blossom petals did not turn into spirits, otherwise the scene would really have happened. "Sister, can I have a drink?" Wan Anluo asked, smacking her lips. The peach blossom wine made by Aunt Lu was so delicious, and the peach blossom wine made by his sister must be even better. He really wanted to try it. Yan Xianluo glanced at her younger brother, who was like a greedy cat, pinched his nose and said, "This sister's words don't count. You have to ask your parents." Wan Anluo quickly flattered her and said, "Sister, I only want to taste a little, so I don't need to ask my parents." For the first time, Xianxia had the idea of beating his son. Is this a show-off for his father? Yan Xianluo lowered her voice and said, "We will discuss this matter secretly." Wan Anluo glanced at her father and said in a low voice, "I understand. We will go out to discuss it after my mother is promoted." Yan Xianluo smiled so happily, "It's so fun to have a younger brother." "Okay, sister will go cook later. The food I cook is delicious. Enan should eat more so that she can grow taller," Yuan Xianluo said seductively. "Okay," Ruan Anluo said approvingly. Even if the food cooked by his sister is not delicious, he must eat more, otherwise his sister will be sad. At this time, Wan Anluo didn't know how good his sister's cooking skills were, and he didn't know that his worries were unnecessary. "Look what's coming out of the corner of your mouth." Yan Xianxia suddenly looked at his son and said seriously. Wan Anluo thought he was drooling because of greed, so he quickly raised his hand to wipe the corner of his mouth. When he saw that there was nothing on his hand, he realized that his father was teasing him. He was speechless. "Dad, how can an adult lie to a child?" Yu Xianxia said, "Are you an ordinary child?" Yuan Anluo immediately shook her head, "No, I am the younger brother of Yan Xianluo. I am the smartest brother. When I grow up, I want to protect my sister's younger brother." Ji Zhong on the side finally couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He finally knew that the son his father-in-law gave birth to was specifically to deal with him. Look at the education he had given since childhood, all around his sister. I don't know if Wan Anluo will complain about his father when he grows up. When Yan Xianluo heard her brother's words, a warm current flowed through her heart. Such a natural conversation was naturally a conversation she was accustomed to. It turned out that her father had always taught her brother this way. No wonder his brother was so excited when he saw her. In my heart, I was glad that I had become a miracle doctor, otherwise my younger brother would not have been disappointed when he saw me. Xianxia no longer watched the interaction between the two siblings, lest he be sad that his son had been raised in vain, and continued, "If your mother's health hadn't deteriorated rapidly, we should still be living in Liujiakan, and you, Mrs. Lu, couldn't control it. Your mother's physical condition deteriorated. At this time, I got news that someone had the medicinal materials your mother needed, but he only had one request, which was to exchange the reward for the first place in the continental competition for my cultivation at that time. It is simply impossible to get first place, but I must get the medicinal materials, so I must participate in the continental competition." When Xianxia said this, he also thought of their most difficult time. "After signing up, my father entrusted your mother and your brother to the Lu family and his wife, and they went to a secret realm to practice. After a month, my cultivation level improved by a big level. Although it is not as good as the cultivation level of the first place in the previous continental competition. There is still a long way to go, but at least we have the strength to compete. So, we left Liujiakan 2 months in advance to rent a room in the city where we were participating in the continental competition. I also used these 2 months to stabilize my cultivation. Fortunately, my efforts were not in vain, and I finally got the first place. Name. Then I got the medicinal materials that could save your mother. When your mother was better, I took your mother and Anan to a snowy mountain in the northern continent, because I heard that if your mother's body could be treated with fresh snow lotus, the deterioration of my physical condition has slowed down a lot. In order to find Xuanhuan more easily and to avoid the world, my father carved out a cave in the snowy mountains, so we stayed in it. I don't go down the mountain often. I go to the snow-capped mountains every day to look for snow lotus. It wasn't until your mother's health deteriorated again a month ago that I went down the mountain to look for cloud grass to save your mother, and I didn't hear any news about you. But your her body could no longer leave the snow-capped mountains, and she was sleeping longer and longer. Only by finding Cloud Bncao could I take your mother to find you. I took the time to look for Cloud Bncao, and during this period I also heard news from you. Including the continental competition and the G family's affairs, I finally found Yunbianko for your mother yesterday, and I came here to find you today." By this time, Yanxiangluo also understood that almost all of her parents' experiences after arriving in the higher continent revolved around healing her mother's body. Although her father ignored many of the hardships and did not mention them, it goes without saying that she knew how difficult the past 6 years had been for her father. She had complained about her father in her heart before, feeling that in his heart, her mother was more important than her, otherwise why would he give up his 10-year-old self to find his mother? Now she understands her father. Many things in this world cannot be done both ways. Sometimes you have to make a choice. "What's going on with An's body?" Yanxiangluo asked. Even though her younger brother is only 6 years old, she knows very well that he will never awaken his spiritual roots at the normal age of 5. She actually awakened her spiritual roots as soon as she was born, otherwise her mother wouldn't have separated her soul into one soul after another. How could the talent of a younger brother with the same genes from the same father and mother be too poor? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 696. Chapter 696. Show it to Anan. Even if Anan didn't awaken her spiritual roots at birth, she would not have awakened her spiritual roots for more than 3 years. With her spiritual power, she can clearly see how good her brother's talent is, but her brother's cultivation is not like someone who has practiced for 3 years. Xianxia sighed, You two siblings have experienced hardships when they were born. When Luo was born, your mother was plotted by Yu's family, so that your health was very poor and could not bear your super talent. Therefore, you should be 13 years of waste. Xianxia avoided the matter of his wife using the power of a heavenly master to make his daughter live in another world for 13 years as a soul. He didn't know whether his daughter had told Xuanhuan about this matter, and he couldn't let it slip. Even if he didn't hide it from Xuanhuan, he shouldn't have told Xuanhuan this. When your mother was pregnant with your brother, the Long family plotted against your mother. Your brother almost died in the womb. Although he survived and was born, his body was still injured. If it weren't for you, Aunt Lu, your brother would have died as soon as he was born. He will face death. Although he is saved and his body is fine, he has not achieved much despite his efforts in cultivation. After listening to his father's words, Luo understood what he meant. His younger brother was indeed very talented, but it was very difficult to practice. She looked at her brother and said, "Anan, stretch out your hand, sister, let me show it to you." Xuanhuan knew that his sister wanted to see if his cultivation problem could be solved, and he also wanted to solve his own cultivation problem. In cultivation, he always felt as if he had a lot of strength that he couldn't use. Hence, as soon as his sister spoke, he immediately stretched out his hand and put it on the stone table. Luo stretched out her hand to feel an pulse. After a while, Luo let go and said to her father, "There is indeed nothing wrong with An's body. She is very healthy. Aunt Liu's medical skills are really good." Although her father didn't explain in detail, she knew that her brother would not be very healthy after he was born. Aunt Liu's medical skills are indeed good to be able to nurse her younger brother's body to such an extent. Xianxia knew this would be the case. Dad has found many doctors with good medical skills to see your brother over the years, and they all said this. In fact, what those doctors meant was that your child was born with a bad talent and it had nothing to do with his health. Had she not known how strong her son's talent was when he awakened his spiritual roots, he would have thought that his son's cultivation was so slow because of his lack of talent. Luo talked to Jianan, "Don't resist Anan, my sister uses mental power to show you Danshan and meridians. The talent is excellent, but the practice is very laborious, so there must be problems. Since it is not a physical problem, there is a problem elsewhere, otherwise such a problem would not occur." Luo used her mental power to check all the meridians on her younger brother's body, and even more carefully checked the Danshan. Strangely, after checking it over and over several times, there was nothing wrong with either the meridians or the Danshan. This is really strange. Where does the problem occur? Luo frowned and thought about it. Xuanhuan saw her sister's frown and knew that her physical problems had put her in a difficult position. His sister had put so much effort into curing his mother, and he didn't want to make it difficult for his sister anymore. Just when he was about to say that his sister didn't have to be so embarrassed for him, Xuanhuan stopped him. Xuanhuan made a silent gesture, and then sent a message to Xuanhuan, "Your sister is thinking about your problem. Don't disturb her at this time." Xuanhuan looked at Xuanhuan and then at her sister, and then looked at her father. Seeing that her father also made a gesture of silence towards her, she bit her lower lip and closed her mouth without saying anything. "Since my brother-in-law and father said so, my sister must not be disturbed in her current state." Xuanhuan thought for a long time. Xuanhuan and Xianxia were very calm. Xuanhuan was a little uneasy. She looked at her sister and then at the closed hall. Her mother hadn't come out yet, and she didn't know how her mother had broken through. Due to the isolation mysterious pattern carved by Luo, no movement of advancement inside could be heard outside. Luo thought for a long time, thinking about all the reasons, and found that Anan did not have these problems, so there was only one left. Luo raised her eyes to look at Anan, and used her soul control power to look at her brother's soul body. Xianxia noticed it when his daughter used her soul-controlling power. Ji Zhong was more familiar with her aura when she used her soul-controlling power. They both looked at Yuan Xiangluo. Although Wan Anluo's cultivation level is not high, her mental power is very strong. This is innate. A strong talent and mental power must be strong. Hence, he felt the warmth of his sister's power as soon as it fell on him, which made him unable to resist. Although he had no intention of resisting his sister's power, why did he like this power so much? Ruan Anluo looked at her sister with the same big eyes as Ruan Xiangluo with starlight. Her sister was indeed very powerful. What kind of power was this? It was not spiritual power or spiritual power, but it was very similar to the soul-controlling power used by her mother. But he was reluctant to let his mother's soul-controlling power come close to him, but his sister's power was so warm that he unconsciously wanted to get close to it. At this time, Yan Xiangluo didn't know what her brother was thinking, and she didn't have time to pay attention to his thoughts, because she had already discovered the reason why his brother practiced so hard. There is nothing wrong with my brother's soul, but his luck has been borrowed, not all at once, but constantly. Anand's own luck is golden light. This kind of luck is an excellent luck. Except for the purple gold light, this is already the best luck. But his luck has a golden silk thread that is constantly being drawn. Sent to another place. Yu Xiangluo was angry. Someone was taking advantage of his younger brother's luck. This person would never be forgiven. It is precisely because Anand's luck is constantly being borrowed by others that it is very difficult for him to practice. After all, everyone's cultivation talent is manifested in the soul. If the luck is constantly lost, the soul will inevitably be affected. Yan Xiangluo withdrew her soul-controlling power and did not touch the slipping thread of luck to avoid disturbing the other party. Yu Chenji's daughter took back her soul-controlling power and didn't rush to ask. Instead, she waited for her daughter to speak. Anand's luck has been stolen, Yan Xiangluo said. As soon as her words came out, Chenji's eyes suddenly turned cold. He finally knew the Long family's ultimate purpose of hurting his wife. It turned out to be for the fate of the child in his wife's belly. Did the Long family do it? Yuan Chenji asked. Yan Xiangluo shook her head. I don't know yet. I haven't touched the stolen destiny, and I don't want to alert the snake. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 697. Chapter 697 Breakthrough completed. Yu Chenji nodded. Luoluo did the right thing. If the other party to alert the enemy suddenly takes away all the sun's luck and then cuts off the connection, it will be difficult to find the other party, and there will be no way to help Anan. Yan Xiangluo continued, however, the other party did not steal Anand's luck all at once, but stole it bit by bit. It is easier to solve if he keeps stealing. The other party kept stealing Anand's luck with silk threads. Luck is not about changing luck, but about cultivating luck. Dad, do you know anyone in the Long family who needs luck? His wife is a heavenly master, so Yu Chenji naturally knows more about this than ordinary people. He frowned and thought for a while. We didn't stay in the Long family for long, and after your mother was plotted, I kept studying how to take your mother away, and then I took your mother to jump into the well where the 9 families practiced, and absorbed the person below left the lower continent after his spiritual energy breakthrough. He doesn't know much about the people of the Long family. Why don't you ask your mother later? Although Chenji didn't want to mention the Long family's affairs in front of his wife wouldn't blame him if it related to his son. Yan Xiangluo did not immediately answer her father. This person used his younger brother's luck to support his own. It must be that this person's luck was not bad in the first place. He wanted to use his younger brother's luck to support his own luck and improve his luck. This person's luck is at least as good as his younger brother, a person with golden luck. This luck is already very good, which is why she is so careful not to touch the thread of luck, because she is worried that the other party will notice it and do evil to her brother. No matter who the opponent is, she will take action, but the intensity of the attack can be heavy or light. If the opponent is a member of the Long family, she still has to consider her mother's thoughts. I will prepare first and wait for my mother to come out before solving An's problem. Yan Xianglou thought for a while and decided to wait until her mother came out and ask her opinion before making a decision. Yu Chenjai knew his daughter's concerns and said, "Okay." Although Wan Anluo did not have the right to make the decision, he understood that his sister found out that the reason for his difficulty in practicing was that someone stole his luck and kept stealing it again. He was suddenly shocked. Such an unbelievable thing actually happened on him. And according to his sister, it started before he was born. He never thought it would be such a reason. At this moment, Yan Xianglou turned to look at the main hall. My mother's breakthrough has been completed. As soon as she raised her hand, a line of mysterious pattern power fell on the main hall. At the same time, a line of spiritual power also fell on the formation's eyes. While breaking the isolation of the mysterious pattern, it also unlocked the formation. After the spirit gathering array was released, the spiritual energy surging above the hall dispersed and returned to the normal spiritual energy concentration. After the mysterious isolation pattern disappeared, several people could hear the movement inside. Actually, Ji Zhong never said anything. Even if there was an isolation mysterious pattern, he knew what was going on inside. However, he didn't tell his mother-in-law that everything was going well. Went to the door and walked quickly. Xiang Xianglou looked at his brother. Although the sister and brother did not speak, the meaning of his eyes was the same meaning. Yan Xianglou patted her younger brother on the shoulder and said, "Your sister came here like this before." The two siblings looked at each other again, this time with quite sympathetic eye contact. Wan Anluo suddenly turned to look at Ji Zhong, raised her eyebrows, and thought to herself, "Will my brother-in-law be like this in the future? If the brother-in-law cares about his sister like this, then he can accept it." When she opened the door, she saw the wife who came to the door, and saw the wife who was shaking with a flower. Yu Chenjai stretched out his arms, and Long Moran happily threw himself into her husband's arms. Although his face was still smiling, there were already tears on his face. Yan Xianglou immediately pulled her brother and turned around. Yan Anluo looked up at her sister with confusion. "What's wrong?" I knew where Xiang Xianglou knew that from the end of the proclaimed notes, he didn't have much when he was walking in his own mother. He was holding him where he was. Therefore, hugging like this, he felt normal. Ji Zhong looked at Yan Xianglou's movements in amusement. This girl is still shy. The couple hugged each other for a while before letting go. Long Moran felt a little embarrassed when he saw the three people standing outside with their backs to them, as well as Chang Feng and Ji Zimo standing further away. When she was in poor health, she didn't feel anything bad, but now that she is in good health, not only is she better, but her cultivation level has also been promoted, and her level as a heavenly master has also been improved. She feels really embarrassed to do this in front of children and outsiders. Yu Chenjai doesn't care, there is nothing his wife can't hold, she already has a daughter and a son. Yan Xianglou noticed that the two people had come out, so she turned around and saw her mother looking at her tenderly. Her almond eyes suddenly lit up. Her mother was like this when she was a child, beautiful and gentle. Long Moran walked up to his daughter, touched her hair, face, and hands, feeling pity and guilt. Then he put his daughter into his arms and said in a choked voice, "Luoluo, my daughter." Yan Xianglou was instantly infected by her mother's emotions. She really missed her mother's arms and started crying. The two of them hugged each other and cried for a while, but Chenjai pulled them apart. "If you two continue to cry, we will cry too." The two of them separated. Long Moran held his daughter's hand and didn't let go. He found that the sleeve on the other side was pulled, and turned around to see his son. Wan Anluo said pitifully, "Mom, you haven't hugged me yet. Long Moran's tears that had just stopped flowed down again. Her health was even worse after her son was born. Except for hugging him for a while after he was 1 month old, she never hugged him again. It wasn't that she didn't want to, but that she couldn't even walk. How can I hold my son if I can't walk? She was the one who held her son when he was 1 month old, and her husband held their mother and son, so she was able to hold her son. Yan Xianglou quickly let go of her mother's hand. Mom, hurry up and hug your brother. If you don't, you won't be allowed to hug him anymore. She is telling the truth. Her younger brother is 6 years old this year. In another year, he may not ask for a hug. Even if you want to hug him, he won't let him. Long Moran stretched out his hands and picked up his son, spinning him around a few times. Wan Onluo hugged her mother's neck and smiled happily. It's great, my mother is healed, and I no longer have to worry about losing her mother in the future. After putting down his son, Long Moran looked at Xuanhuan. The last time I saw you, you were only 6 years old. Unexpectedly, when we meet again, you are actually my son-in-law. Long Moran didn't say this, but she is still satisfied with Xuanhuan's son-in-law. She had heard about Xuanhuan before. How could a 6-year-old child survive without the protection of his father? How could he be an ordinary person? End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 698. Chapter 698 Sweet Dates. But the current satisfaction is due to Xuanhuan's talent and strength. As for whether he is satisfied or not in the end, it depends on how he feels about his daughter. Xuanhuan saluted and said, Zhuan has met my mother-in-law. Long Moran raised his brows. He was a man who knew how to get things done. He also had a sweet mouth, which was different from the rumors. The rumors about Long Moran's involvement were rumors about Xuanhuan in Tianqian continent, not here. However, Long Moran was not like her husband. He directly said that his mother-in-law had called her early, and asked, when did you get married? Xuanhuan told his mother-in-law what he just told his father-in-law. When Xuanhuan told his father that Yan Xiang fell in the hall to treat his mother, he didn't hear it. Now when he heard Xuanhuan's words, he realized that this man actually told the truth about their emotional experience. After hearing this, Long Moran didn't show any dissatisfaction. He just lamented that his daughter was taken away by a wolf so early, and he was a little reluctant to let go. Long Moran sighed and said, my family was very bumpy when she was born, and cultivation was not easy. She had to stay alone in a lower continent to make a living at a young age. Her experience was not something a 10-year-old child should bear, but she came through it. As her parents, we have not fulfilled our responsibilities as parents. But guilt and love are different. Whether Luoluo is with us or not, he is our daughter. We want her to be well. But sometimes we can't resist fate. Just like now, we don't have to accompany her to grow up. Although we feel guilty, we are very proud of it. After all, it is my daughter. Even though Luoluo is strong, it doesn't mean that we can't do anything. I sacrificed my life for them, and I'm willing to sacrifice my life for them again no matter what they encounter. Do you get me? Although Long Moran looked at Xuanhuan when he said these words, he also said these words to his daughter. Some words can only be said frankly and honestly so that they will not leave knots in each other's hearts. She didn't know whether her daughter complained about the couple leaving her alone in Tianqian continent, but she had to say this. Let her daughter know that although they have no choice but to do so, they feel guilty and are always thinking about her. Let their daughter know that if it were their daughter, they would sacrifice their lives for it. Xuanhuan nodded. Zhuan understands, mother-in-law, don't worry, even if there is such a time, the person who sacrifices his life will be me first. In fact, Xuanhuan knew very well that Wan Chenjai and his wife were very successful in educating their daughter. Although they only stayed with her until she was 10 years old, in the past 10 years, they had taught their daughter everything they could. The main reason why she survived alone in the Tianshan imperial city, which was full of malice towards her, was at her age. Not only the people from Tianshan imperial city, but also those from the Yu family who always wanted her life. He will never forget how embarrassed Luoluo was when he saw her for the first time. She was covered in blood and her face could not be seen clearly, but she looked at him firmly and wanted to break off the engagement with him. At that time, it was the concubine who thought that the woman who admired him pushed her down the cliff of the royal training ground. At that time, he was shocked. With her cultivation at that time, she could still survive after falling off the cliff. Long Moran nodded, "I have remembered what you said today. I hope you mean it from the bottom of my heart. You have to know that I am a heavenly master. If you want to scheme against someone, you don't even need to do anything, or even meet." Ji Zhong's mouth twitched. He thought his mother-in-law was easy to talk to and would be much gentler to him than his father-in-law. Now it seems that he took it for granted, and he didn't even threaten his father-in-law openly. Ji Zhong looked at Yan Xiangloo and said with a smile, "When the time comes, Luo will be more ruthless than her mother-in-law." Although this sentence is a joke, it also has some sincerity. Getting along with Yan Xiangloo is so good. Although I can't say that I understand her completely, I know about it. Luo is a kind-hearted person, but because of his experience, he does not trust people easily, let alone give his sincerity easily. She will repay those who treat her well 100-fold. On the contrary, she will take revenge on the spot. If she cannot take revenge on the spot, she will remember it in her heart and will never hesitate if she has the opportunity. And if you let her betray someone sincerely, she will definitely make you regret coming into this world. For example, the person who dared to steal his brother-in-law's luck knew that Luo would never act lightly. Long Moran smiled and changed the topic. "I would also like to thank Zhekong for asking someone to pick us up. Otherwise, I would still suffer, and the time for our family of 4 to meet would have to be postponed again." Ji Zhekong's phoenix eyes flashed. It seemed that her mother-in-law was the most powerful person. The method of slapping Tianzao was so natural. It was unlikely that this trick was often used on her father-in-law, so she practiced it. Even though he thought so, he didn't dare to look at his father-in-law. His father-in-law was also a good person. He could guarantee that his father-in-law would immediately know what he meant. "Family, mother-in-law, you're welcome," Ji Zhong said respectfully. Long Moran said again, "Luo is still young. Although you are engaged, we still want to keep her. This is the first time for our family of 4 to get together in more than 6 years. Zhekong won't object, right?" Ji Zhong's eyes twitched fiercely. "Are you going to use this trick endlessly?" This was another slap in the face. I wonder what kind of sweet date his mother-in-law was going to give him. I was thinking this in my heart, but I said, "I don't understand Luo." Kicked the ball back with one sentence. Wan Chenjai and Wan Anluo, father and son, glanced at Ji Zhong at the same time, and the two words cunning came to their minds. Yan Xiangloo was also speechless. One was her fiancé and the other was her mother. Whoever she helped would make the other party sad. Her mother was doing it for herself. Ji Zhong didn't have anything to say about him except for the fact that he signed up for the continental competition without telling her before. If she is dissatisfied with anything, just say nothing, and you can just fight. Long Moran was not surprised that Ji Zhong said this. He was still Ji Zhong without any sense. He couldn't handle this, so how could he protect his daughter? "It's not that I'm preventing you from getting married. Our only daughter will definitely be a beautiful woman when she gets married. Now we have to prepare a dowry for Luo. And also needs to grow taller before he can carry his sister out." Long Moran laughed. Road. Ji Zhong was speechless. He glanced at his brother-in-law, who barely reached his waist. How many years would it take for him to grow up and get married? Mother-in-law is not kind. This time she slapped her twice in succession without even giving her a sweet date. In comparison with this, my father-in-law is quite kind, so he just said it was too late. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 699. Chapter 699. They are not worthy. Yan Xianglou saw Ji Zhong's constantly changing eyes, and occasionally glanced at herself aggrievedly. It was the first time that Ji Zhong was so aggrieved. He was embarrassed to laugh even if he wanted to. How could Ji Zhong not notice it? He said a little aggrievedly, "Luoluo, just laugh if you want. Don't hold it in because I'm holding it back. I can't fight back 3 times against 1. Ji Zhong's words immediately made Yan Xianglou unable to hold back and burst out laughing. Xianxia looked at his daughter who was laughing so hard that she was crying, then looked at Ji Zhong, and thought to himself, what a cunning boy. Change the topic without offending them. Looking at each other, this son-in-law is not easy to deal with, right? But it feels okay. They didn't remember how their daughter liked to laugh so heartily when she was young. Later, due to cultivation issues, she gradually matured, and she was like a little adult at a young age. Long Moran was not unhappy at all, and she was not disgusted at all by her son-in-law's way of changing the subject. Seeing his daughter smile so heartily, it is obvious that the son-in-law knows his daughter very well. In fact, Yan Xianglou rarely smiled so heartily. In her memory, she could count the number of times she lived in 2 worlds on one hand. Long Moran saw that the topic was missed by Ji Zhong, so she didn't continue. She couldn't be so annoying. Anyway, she said everything she needed to say and expressed what she wanted to express. "Luoluo, tell me how you came here after we left," Long Moran asked his daughter. A family of 4 sat down around the stone table, and the 4 stone benches were full. Ji Zhong was speechless. Is this another slap? Wan Chenjai kicked his son, and Wan Anluo looked at his father. Why did you kick me? Ji Chenjai looked at Ji Zhong. Ji Anluo turned his head and looked at it, and saw Ji Zhong standing, and then looked at the stool to sit, and immediately understood the meaning of his father, and stood up helplessly. Brother-in-law, sit down although he is small. Ji Zhong shook his head and said, sit down peacefully. I have something to do. I'll come back later. Ji Zhong was very satisfied with the title of Wan Anluo, especially since his father-in-law and mother-in-law did not correct his title. In fact, they recognized him in disguise. Hearing this, Yan Xianglou also looked at Ji Zhong. Is there anything else? Although the outer city cannot be protected like the inner city, we still need to ensure the safety of the family members after they move here. I am going to study the city defense formation, Ji Zhong said. Yan Xianglou nodded. I'll go with Dad later. My father is very accomplished in formations, and she also has a lot of research on formations. It is better for 3 people to study together than alone. Ji Zhidian nodded. Don't worry, I'll look at the map first, and then I'll figure out how to set up the formation. Okay, Yan Xianglou responded. Father-in-law and mother-in-law, I'll go take a look first, Ji Zhong said to Zhu Chenjai and Long Moran and left. Chang Feng followed his master and left without hesitation. Ji Zimo looked at the family of 4 and also left. Ji Zhikong is obviously making room for his family of 4. Chang Feng and Ji Zimo are not stupid people. How can they not see this? So, what are they doing here? An eyesore? After Ji Zhong left with Chang Feng and Ji Zimo, the family of 4 continued to talk about each other's experiences. Yan Xianglou told them in detail about her life in the other world and after her parents left in this life. She originally wanted to hide it in Pangu space, but after meeting her parents again, Yanxiangluo did not hide it. After hearing their daughter's experience, Xianxia and Long Moran felt indescribable feelings in their hearts, including heartache, pity, guilt, and hatred for those who were malicious to their daughter, especially those who pushed their daughter off the cliff of Tianshan Empire Royal Training Ground. My concubine's daughter. Even if they are not from the same bloodline, they still have the same surname. How could they commit such a murder just for a man? Hence, their good impression of Jizhong was immediately reduced. Although they knew that this had nothing to do with Jizhong directly. After all, there were many women who liked him, and he had no obligation to care what they did. But the daughter was still acting as his fiancée at the time, and she could break off the engagement if she didn't like it. But since he didn't break off the engagement, he didn't protect her, which they were very dissatisfied with. Wan Unluo is particularly dissatisfied. Yanxiangluo was also dissatisfied with Jizhong because of this at the time, so she immediately broke off the engagement when she saw Jizhong when she came back. But later, after learning about Jizhong's situation, she also understood that if Jizhong immediately broke off the engagement with her as soon as he took control of the imperial power of the Tianshan Empire, she would be bullied even worse. Even if she could save her life, she would probably be in the hands of the Tianshan Empire. The imperial city can no longer live in. The life of being homeless and wandering is not that easy for a 10-year-old girl, especially when she has not yet broken through the first life and death barrier of Pangu Huikai. When her strength is too weak, what can she do to protect herself? Although she stayed in Tianshan Imperial City, she was pushed off the cliff by the women of the Yu family because of her reputation as Jizhong's fiancée. However, that was because the women of the Yu family were stupid and did not realize that they were being taken advantage of. Their fate was already miserable, much worse than death, so she had long since stopped caring about it. As for the mastermind behind the scenes, even if she is not punished, now she doesn't even have a chance to look up to her, so she won't be able to argue with an ant. Xianxiangluo also talked about what she was stolen by Yan Anlu, and asked her mother Long Moran. When Long Moran heard this, his mood instantly dropped. His daughter had talked about her experience in the Long family before. Because her daughter was not injured but had obtained the soul controlling skills passed down from generation to generation by the Long family, she did not care about anything with the Long family anymore. Now knowing that his son had been smuggled out by the Long family before he was born, the resentment deep in his heart burst out instantly. Luoluo can do whatever she wants, no matter what the mother's face is, they don't deserve it. Yanxiangluo breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this. It was her mother's words that she was waiting for. She asked again, "Mother, can you guess who is stealing an onion road?" Long Moran thought for a while and said, "If the person who smuggled the Tao has excellent luck, it is not difficult to guess." Yanxiangluo and her father looked at each other. It seemed that her mother knew who it was, but there was something wrong with her expression. Long Moran was silent for a while and said, "If we talk about people with the same luck as Anan, there is only one person in the Long family besides my mother. He is the same generation as me, but 10 years older than me. The Long family goes out to people of my generation. He took us out all the time. I haven't seen him since I decided to marry your father. I don't know if he has never returned to the Long family or if he has returned. He stole it, so even if he didn't go back, he still kept in touch with the Long family, and he was the first to propose it when the family leader and elders thought of me." End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 700. Yanxiangluo suddenly realized that her mother's talent was so strong, but her luck was not very good, and all the hardships she had experienced were in giving birth to a child. Her mother is a celestial master. She had never thought that the celestial master's destiny could be changed or stolen. After all, the celestial master's perception is very strong. He cannot show his own destiny, but he will not allow others to steal it. Or a change of luck. But what if it was before my mother became a celestial master? At this time, she wondered if her mother's luck had been stolen or changed a long time ago. She does not doubt that her destiny can be stolen or replaced, because her mother separated her soul when she was born, and sent each soul to another world. The soul is incomplete, and no matter how powerful the celestial master is, it cannot be replaced. Destiny. Even if you were smuggled in your mother's womb, the moment your soul is separated, your stolen destiny will be cut off first. Moreover, she came here with the destiny of heaven on her shoulders. No matter how powerful the heavenly master is, he does not have the strength to oppose the way of heaven. Xianxia looked at her mother and said, "Mom, is it possible that my mother's luck has been stolen or changed?" Xianxia's words stunned both Long Moran and Xianxia. The couple looked at each other, obviously thinking that their daughter's suspicion was justified. Long Moran said, "It's very possible that when I was a child, everything went smoothly. When did it start to go wrong?" Long Moran frowned and thought for a while, then her eyes suddenly burst into sharp light. "From the time I became the young master of the Long family." Xianxia was not surprised by her mother's reaction. When did mother become the young master of the Long family? 14. When did you become a heavenly master? Xianxia asked again. Long Moran knew what his daughter meant. If she became a heavenly master, her destiny must not be stolen or changed without knowing it. If her own destiny was stolen or changed, it must be before she became a heavenly master. 16 years old after Long Moran said this age, he obviously thought of something. Xianxia understood. That person became a heavenly master before you, right? Although this sentence is a question, Xianxia is already sure that her mother's luck and that person's luck are both very good. The family chooses who is more worthy of the family's cultivation. The person who becomes the heavenly master first is naturally the person the family decides to train. Therefore, helping that person change his mother's fate is really something that a family like the Long family can do. Long Moran had already figured it out and suddenly said, "No wonder the head of the family and the elders wanted him to be the young master at that time, but he strongly recommended me." Xianxia looked at her mother and asked, "Is that person also very talented in cultivation?" Long Moran nodded and said, "If he wasn't under me, I'm afraid he would have come to the higher continent long ago. After all, she went through so many hardships and came to the higher continent in her 20s. That person did not have any hardships and must have come to the higher continent earlier than she did." A cold light flashed through Xianxia's apricot eyes. No matter where he was, since he dared to plot against her mother and brother, he should wait for her revenge. Heavenly masters cannot take the initiative to do things that harm others, but if they are punishing evildoers, then there is no need to back off karma, and Heavenly Deo will not take care of it. If you deal with the evildoer, you will still gain merit. "Mom, let me show it to you," Xianxia said to Long Moran. Long Moran nodded. The heavenly master cannot see his own destiny, but he can still see the destiny of his relatives, but some people cannot see it under special circumstances. Xianxia got her mother's consent and raised her eyes to look over. The powerful power of soul control immediately enveloped Long Moran. Long Moran was extremely shocked. Why was his daughter's soul-controlling power so warm? She is a celestial master herself, and she knows very well what the celestial master's power is like. It is all cold, which is why the soul body is afraid of the power of soul control. However, today she discovered that celestial master's power was also warm and comfortable, making her want to sleep, as if she was back in her mother's belly, which completely subverted her previous understanding of celestial master's power. No wonder the daughter was able to open the box passed down from generation to generation in the Long family and obtain the soul control technique. This was not the time for her to raise doubts. Long Moran suppressed the doubts in his heart and relaxed his body and mind, so that his daughter could easily investigate her destiny. Actually, what she doesn't know is that the soul body cannot resist Yan Xiangluo's soul-controlling power. If you resist, she will only strengthen the soul-controlling power, but you will suffer even more. Yan Xiangluo carefully checked her mother's fortune, and the cold light in her apricot eyes became colder and colder. If that person was in front of her, the cold light in her eyes could freeze someone. Xianxia could see the result from his daughter's eyes. His wife's fate had indeed been tampered with. Narrowing his eyes, he would never let this person go. If he dared to plot against his concubine Xianxia's woman, then he would have to be prepared to bear his wrath. Xuanhuan looked at his sister nervously. He had received too much information this day at a young age. He was instantly touched by the hardships about their family, and he clenched his little fists tightly. Not only has he grown up one day, but he has also strengthened his confidence in cultivation, so that no matter how big the obstacles are in his future cultivation, he will be able to get through it as long as he remembers the hardships his family has endured, without slacking off at all. Yan Xiangluo took back the power of soul control, and Long Moran said in a gentle tone, "Let's talk. After so many years, the worst result is that the fate will be changed." Yan Xiangluo's expression was still very calm. If the couple hadn't known about their daughter's temperament and could see the undercurrent in her eyes, they wouldn't have noticed any ups and downs in her emotions. Mother's luck was neither stolen nor changed, but taken away directly. Yan Xiangluo told the truth. Long Moran was stunned. She was a heavenly master and knew the meaning of her daughter's words. Even the other party didn't steal or change, but directly took away her luck to nourish his, which meant making up for the shortcomings in his luck. Gone, commonly known as replenishment. Can you tell if the person who stole an Anyun's way is the same person? Long Moran asked. Yan Xiangluo shook his head and said, I didn't dare to alert the person who stole an Anyun road. If you want to know if he is the same person, you have to wait until I take action against him. Yan Xiangluo thought that it would be best if it was the same person. While she was snatching back her brother's luck, she could also take back her mother's luck. It would be difficult if they are not the same person. We don't know who the other person is and where they are, and there is no contact at all. It may be difficult to recover the fate of her mother who was taken away. Xianxia frowned and asked, since your mother's luck has been taken away, what's going on with her current luck?